everybody? It's your boy Luke here for our round 4 prize picks targets for the Memorial. Round 3 was the bounce back we're looking for, so to all the haters out there, first off, you can suck it. You probably didn't have a good day if you faded our card going 0-4-1, but either way, really looking forward to giving our picks here for the final round. We'll touch on our top 5 picks, what we expect from the golf course from Sunday as well, to get you prepared for making your own cards here. So a lot to touch on. Just first, from a review standpoint, every prop ended up hitting today except for answer. That was a push, ended up shooting 71, which was a little bit of an adventure on its own. Ended up bogeying hole 16 and double bogeying his last hole to get us that push. And that included a miss for bogey within 5 feet. So, of course, a little bit of a good break our way. Shane Lowry made it a little bit of a sweat for us, coming down to hole 17, but can never complain about a 5x return. And, of course, because answer was my least confident pick, all of our 4-leg, 3-leg, and even 2-leg powers that I entered ended up hitting for today. So, just an epic day, over 22 units won from my perspective. So, hopefully, you guys were able to take advantage of as well. So, again, we're going to start with our picks here for round 4 and a review of the golf course at Muirfield Village. All right, we've got data golf on the screen, and by using this, we can go over the golf course. So here in round 3, it played a little bit easier than I expected, and that was completely a result of the setup. A lot of the pin locations were in favorable, not so dicey locations, a lot towards the middle, not necessarily so tucked, and a lot of the tee boxes were moved up, especially on the par 3s. Both quote-unquote drivable par 4s were much closer to actually drivable off the tee than what they were for Thursday and Friday. First off, hole number 4, also on the back nine, I believe it's hole number 13, or it's 14, one of those two, was playing 380, 390 yards respectively. Today, they played right around 330 and 308 yards respectively, and especially the second one was drivable for pretty much every single player in the field. And while not everyone took advantage of that, you could see the scoring average was reflective of an easier golf course. All 4 par 5s played under par, so that being hole number 5, hole number 7, and hole number 11 and hole number 15, and the 2 drivable par 4s. So that being hole number, 3 here, the 392-yard one. That played closer to 320 yards today. And over here, hole number, 14. It didn't play that much under par, but it only played 300 yards. So, of course, if you were aggressive out there, it was certainly a birdie opportunity to be had. So for Sunday, without those type of conditions, I'd expect pin locations a lot more difficult than what we saw here for the third round. And, of course, the tee boxes are going to be moved back. I would not expect them to be quite as easy as we saw today. So rather than just a quarter of a stroke over par, I expect a scoring average closer to maybe 3/4 of a stroke like we saw for Thursday, or even the 1.2 shots we saw for Friday, especially considering that the weather isn't completely laying down. Unlike today where the sustained winds and the wind gusts were pretty much non-existent, 8 miles an hour at a maximum, tomorrow in the morning, they are a little bit higher. So conditions might not be quite as favorable as we'd expect here for Saturday. The harder pin locations, like I said, also further back tee boxes, and a little bit more wind in the morning are all going to make this golf course play a little bit more difficult. With all that being said, let's talk about our favorite plays on the board. So another 5x card coming at you. This is going to be a 12.5x card as well. And let's talk about the fades to start. So the number 1 fade, my favorite prop on the entire board actually, is going to be Joaquin Niemann at 71.5 strokes. He's coming in at the top of the board. He's in the top 10 as is. He's played some pretty solid golf through the first 3 rounds. The issue I have with him is that here for the third round, it was almost entirely with the putter. He gained over 2 strokes to the field in that category and lost strokes with his approach play. If you're going and you're looking for a consistent performer, somebody that can sustain that success from round to round, you want it to be with the ball striking. When it's coming with the putter with that flat stick, that can be a little bit more volatile than other categories. That's when I worry about whether a player is going to sustain that momentum. And with anybody towards the top of the leaderboard, I tend to worry about them a little bit more than the chasers, as they tend to be a little bit more conservative than the players that are behind them, and of course don't have quite as much to gain taking the play super low. I mean, Joaquin tomorrow, if he shoots something like 3 to 4 under par, he's going to finish in the top 5, perhaps maybe even second at this event. Anything close to par is probably a top 10 finish for Joaquin Niemann, whereas his chasers, the guys that are there at like 3, 4 under par, you're going to have to take this place pretty damn low to even get close to the top 10. So, like I said, just a little bit less incentive to be aggressive. And given the fact that he hasn't been all that sharp with his approach play, is somebody that I'm going to be taking the over on at 71.5. Of course, that number implies that he shoots even par or worse, which, given that the scoring average is likely to be at least a shot over par, I think that's more than realistic for a player coming in with shaky form. Next up, we have Billy Horschel, so the guy leading the golf tournament, which is always a scary fade, but it's always a lucrative fade. At least more often than not, fading the guy that's 5 shots ahead is going to be a solid idea. So if you're taking the under on birdies, I could see taking him in that market, or of course in this market where we're taking the over on strokes, much like a Joaquin Niemann, and especially so, even more so than a Joaquin Niemann. He is not incentivized to go super low. He's going to play extremely conservative, hit towards the middle of greens. And anytime you're the leader at a golf tournament, you're more prone to make mistakes. You're somebody who has a lot more on the line, a lot more thoughts racing through your mind. Would not surprise me if he still won this golf tournament, yet shot something like 1, maybe even 2 shots over par. I mean, given how hard these conditions are going to be, you're going to see a lot of backing up on the leaderboard, particularly from the guys that are playing late into the afternoon when these greens get extremely baked out, firmer and faster than what we're going to see in the AM conditions. Could be quite a bit of carnage out there for the guys that aren't sharp with their game. So for me, always like fading the guys towards the top of the board, particularly when there's somebody like Billy Horschel, who I love his character. I love that he is so high energy, but to say that he would be a calm or a level-headed player, you'd be lying to yourself. I mean, that's just the furthest thing from the truth. He's a volatile, extremely emotional player, which I do worry about here under Sunday pressure. And now for the guys that I'm supporting. So, of course, rooting against guys isn't really my favorite thing to do. It's a little bit more exciting to actually root for players. But the last 3 picks, that's exactly what we're doing, taking the under on their stroke. So let's start with Jon Rahm, who I'm taking him at 71.5 strokes. He was on the board at 71 strokes just a half an hour ago, and quite frankly, I considered taking the under on it. So the fact that he went up to 71.5 makes him somebody I'm even more considering, because even without his best stuff, he made a triple bogey on a par 3 today, which was completely caused. He was in a bunker off the par 3 tee and bladed it into a hazard. And because it was a yellow staked line, he had to re-tee. So he was hitting number 4 from off the tee. He hit this 4 shot, missed the putt, ended up making a 6 on the par 3, which isn't going to happen for Jon Rahm again. That is an aberration. And if he went out there, just double bogeyed that hole, right? Let's say he hit the ball in the water off the tee. He shoots even par today. Let's say that he just bogeys that hole, right? You're talking about him shooting 1 under par, hitting this prop in relatively similar conditions to what we're going to see here on Sunday. And even though pins are going to be tucked, Jon Rahm, he hits towards the middle of greens anyways. He's a very conservative player, tends to just rely on the putter, making 1 to 2 putts from 20 feet. And when he gets that lucky break where he feeds the ball to within 5 to 10 feet, will take advantage of those. He's a very consistent player, and all he has to do to hit for us is shoot under par. If he shoots even par, of course, that would be an over. That would not be what we're looking for. But it's not like we're asking him to shoot 4 to 5 under par to hit. It's just anything under par will do for us. And given his fact that he's so consistent with the ball striking, one of the best players off the tee that we've ever seen. The approach play is among the top 5, top 10 on the PGA Tour, pretty much no matter what window you're looking at. Just a rock solid, very consistent play that I'm very confident getting to. So projecting for right around 70.6 strokes, which is well below the projection I have him at, making him one of my favorite unders on the entire slate. Next up, we have Rory McIlroy at the same number, 71.5. Teeing off towards the morning. I guess that's something I should mention, right? Of course, the guys like Joaquin Niemann, Billy Horschel teeing off in the afternoon because of their position. Jon Rahm, Rory McIlroy teeing off at 11 and also 12 p.m. So not really the morning for Rory McIlroy, but at least slightly earlier in the day. So it won't be in quite the hardest conditions imaginable, just slightly easier conditions than 2 hours later. But in either circumstance, he's in prime position to move up the leaderboard. And kind of like Jon Rahm, he is incentivized to go out there and make birdies, to shoot something under par. He needs to move up the leaderboard to finish in the top 10. And if we know Rory McIlroy on a Sunday has a knack for going low, he just loves to move up the leaderboard. Just think of the Masters when he went out there at Augusta National and finished in second place, and that was from way behind the pack. Would not surprise me if tomorrow he goes on a very similar run. This is a golf course that sets up beautifully for him with the super deep rough. He's a great putter, and around the green, he is more than capable of getting it done. So for strokes, of course, with Jon Rahm, we love his consistency with the ball striking. Isn't going to get himself into trouble all that often. I mean, like I said, the triple bogey was really rare for him today. Same thing with Rory McIlroy. Even when he gets out of position, the approach play can be a little bit more inconsistent for Rory. He's got a great around the green play. So not worried about that at all. Somebody I'm extremely confident, right around a 70.6 projection for strokes over there with Rory. And lastly, we will be taking Max Homa at 72.5, which for Max Homa seems like a mistake. I mean, he's towards the bottom of the board, but in terms of pedigree, he's a top 15 player in the world. He won at the Wells Fargo Championship under difficult conditions, kind of similar to what I expect here on Sunday. He's played at the Genesis Invitational. He won there at Riviera Country Club, also finished in the top 10 in another finish. So has shown an ability to play at difficult golf courses. That is despite not having the best around the green play, but the reason he's able to survive is much like for Jon Rahm. He's so consistent with the ball striking. When he's hitting fairways, he's hitting greens all day. It's hard for him to go out there and make a big score. So at 72.5, all we need is for him to shoot even par to hit. Anything under par, of course, would be gravy for us there. And with that ball striking consistency that we see for him in round to round, somebody I have projected for right around 70.9 strokes. So it's not all that off of some of the other picks that we went with here. The main X factor, the reason why I really like Max Homa on this slate, is that 72.5. He's a whole stroke higher than somebody like a Jon Rahm or a McIlroy. So obviously, while the name recognition, the star power for Rahm and McIlroy would make you think that they're better plays, just the price tag on Max Homa is one to die for here, because the shots gained metrics for Max Homa, when you're comparing them to Rahm or McIlroy over the last 50 measured rounds, aren't all that different. That's the type of player that Max Homa has been of late. So that's the type of card I'm going with there. So that's going to be the 5-man. So for some of my 4-leg powers, I have a 4-leg power with Joaquin Niemann. Of course, the unders, which are my favorite props here on the board with these 3. And then I also have one with Billy Horschel, where I took the over, took the 3 unders down here, and went with that. So 1 5-leg and then the 2 4-leg powers. And of course, a 3-leg power just with the unders here on the board at the bottom. That's all for the round 4 picks. Before you hop on out of here, let me know what your favorite prop on the board is. Comment that down below. Also go ahead and let me know why. But as per usual, I appreciate all of those comments, all of your support here on the channel. If you haven't already smashed that like button too, make sure you go ahead and do that. We will have content for next week. It is the RBC Canadian Open. So first time we've been to our neighbor up north for quite some time. In fact, over 2 years since COVID happened, we haven't had the RBC Canadian. So I know a lot of you up there are looking forward to this event. I am too. A great golf course on the docket. So we'll be breaking that down, have fantasy content for all of next week. So if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, would highly recommend you do so. You don't want to miss any of my prize picks videos to come. The course breakdowns, the fantasy content, just pretty much everything you need to know about golf, I'm going to cover here on the channel for you. So best of luck here for round 4. Best of luck with all of your slips, and I'll catch you guys next time.